am very excited to share this section with you because I've spent my career playing big. When I had the Talking Book Company, we partnered with Disney and Warner Brothers. And then when I had Rich Dad, we had Warner Books and Time Life. And it's how you can really take your success to the next level. And I want to share that with you. But I want to share it with you because it's so important to me, because I stopped playing big when I lost my son. And I didn't realize I had my life in neutral, autopilot. And this last year, I started realizing that I wasn't driving. I had gone from being proactive to reactive. And now I'm really excited because I've made the commitment in honor of my son to play big again. And by doing that, I invite you to come along with me. So in this course, I'm going to be taking you through the steps that I'm doing and that you can do to take your success from where you are today to where you deserve to be. And part of that is changing how you think. You know, when we're trying to survive financially, we're thinking about income. Where's the next paycheck coming from? Well, at this point, we're going to start thinking about wealth. You have the opportunity to create your future. But we do that by thinking of assets. So I want you to start thinking of the assets that you own that generate income. And through this course, we're going to be expanding those assets with the goal that those assets will generate enough income that meet your monthly expenses. That's the definition of financially free. That is my goal for you through this course, for you to become financially free. And in the process, you're going to create your legacy. So not only are we going to have your number one in your field, you're going to live your legacy and create maximum impact. And you do that by becoming financially free by thinking assets, not income. So first I want to celebrate with you that you are at that point, because that first segment of this money course supported you in getting to the point where you are break even. You're in a survival mode. So now you don't have to worry about becoming a slave to your money. As we talked from the very beginning, we're either a master of our money or a slave. Well, now we've become a master. Now it's time to turn those skills into asset generation, buying, building, or creating assets so that you truly can create and live your legacy. So we're very excited. This module, I want to talk about that mindset change. Not only celebrating that you've come this far, but changing how you think. And it is most of our lives. I remember thinking about my income. What's my salary? I want my salary to get higher. I want more income. But when I was able to shift my thinking to how many assets do I have working for me? So your income statement is your income and expenses. Your balance sheet, assets and liabilities. Once you have assets, they're like your employees. They're working for you. And so that's where we want to focus on, assets. See, my favorite word on earth is assets. Assets are sexy. They become your employees, and they generate the income that will help make you financially free. The other part of this section of the course is this now gives you the opportunity to define your passion and what you want to choose for the future. What do you want your legacy to be? What is your definite major purpose in life? Now, it was back in '92 when my son got into credit card debt that I realized my passion came from anger. Most of us think about passion, do what you love what you do. Well, for me, my passion came from being angry that we weren't teaching children about money in school. So in December of 1992, I dedicated the rest of my career to financial literacy and financial education to support people like you in creating a financial future of not just freedom, but generational wealth. Isn't that a nice term? Generational wealth. That's what we're going to be doing in this course. I'm going to support you in creating generational wealth. So ask yourself, what is your definite major purpose? What is it that you want to leave that mark on the world? Because that legacy, it's not so much things. Your legacy is how you make people feel. And so what is it that you want? What mark do you want to leave for your children, your family, your friends, your community. And it's so important to think about creating what you want. You have that opportunity. So I challenge you, take a few minutes and think, what do you want out of life? When we talk about assets, there's a lot of different features. There's a lot of different types of assets. There's paper assets, there's real estate, there's businesses. And we're going to delve into each of those. But let's think a little bit about when you think of assets, what are the features that you want to think about? Control. Now, when you own stock in Coca-Cola, how much control do you have on the decisions made by the management of Coca-Cola? Not a lot. You own your own business, you're in control. And so again, think about what it is that you want in your life. How much risk do you want? Owning a stock, owning a bond that just generates a percentage of revenue to you each year? Think of that, the risk that you want. The protection. Are those assets protected? A piece of real estate, do you have insurance that protects it? What's the potential reward? What's the revenue going to be? What's that return on investment? The safer it is, usually the lower return. So you have to think about what your risk tolerance is. And then financing. You can put $10,000 in the bank and make very, very little money, if any, with inflation. You can take $10,000 and buy a stock and hope that the stock goes up in value. You can put $10,000 against a $100,000 real estate piece of property with a $90,000 loan, and then you have a $100,000 piece of property working for you. And hopefully your rent is going to cover your expense for the mortgage. The financing, look at what it is, what kind of leverage you're willing to have. All of those elements go into thinking about what you want to create for the assets that are going to be in your balance sheet asset column working for you. So let's start talking first about risk tolerance. Now there's a difference between risk tolerance and risk capacity. So I kind of define risk tolerance very, very easily. Can you sleep at night? I have a lot of friends, I know a lot of people, and I'm sure you do too, who have no problem putting everything on the line, risking it all. I'm not that way. Well, I like to say that when I make money, I like to keep it and have it work for me. And so my risk tolerance isn't as high as other people. So what is your risk tolerance? Are you willing to take a little risk in hopes of the greater reward? And in this course, we're going to actually try and minimize that risk by getting you to understand more about the due diligence of what you're doing so that you select appropriate assets to help support you in your wealth plan. We're not talking income plan, we're talking wealth plan. Now, I say tolerance and capacity. Capacity is how much money do you really have? When my husband and I invest in a brand new company, we don't need that money to eat. We are okay. We don't need that. And so we have a greater capacity for risk. Think about whether you may be married, you may have children. So your capacity is going to be limited based on what you need for survival. Somebody who's single may have a greater capacity for risk. So think about it, look at the written materials to determine how you can best measure your capacity for risk. Now, when we're looking at our overall portfolio, I've talked about the various features of an asset, but choose an investment program and profile that is most comfortable for you. So for instance, let's go through a few of the categories. A conservative investment portfolio. Typically, I recommend that for someone who's in their twilight years. They don't have a lot of time left before they retire, so they want to have their risk relatively low because it's basically focused on generating income. Very, very little growth. Then moderately conservative is a little step above that, where it's primarily income, but a little bit of growth. And then moderate, of course, is the balance between the two. You have certain fixed income and you have growth. And as you have a lot of growth, you want to recalibrate on an annual basis to make sure you're looking at what that portfolio is for you and your family. Now, moderately aggressive is primarily focused on growth with a small amount of income. And then, of course, aggressive means you're willing to roll the dice. When you're doing that, however, you want to educate yourself on those assets that you're investing in. Because when you are aggressive in your investing, you have the greatest amount of risk, but you also have the greatest amount of return. So when you're using educated information and doing that due diligence, you have an opportunity to really grow your wealth much more quickly. But again, it's up to you to make sure that you're making the decisions that are right for you and your family. Now, the actions we take when we play small are very different than the actions we take when we're ready to play big. When I first started my career and I made the decision to leave public accounting, it was when I came up with that personal philosophy. I could say yes or no. I did the pros and cons about leaving this stable career, and it didn't help me a bit. I could argue both sides. And my hand kind of took off and wrote across the top of the page, why not? Ask yourself, why not? And that's really become my mantra for my life. Why not take the path less traveled? Why not do something different? Why not be independent? So I challenge you to ask yourself, why not? Because that's important right now, because I'm going to be pushing you a little bit to step outside your comfort zone. And I want you to commit that you will do that, because that's where the magic happens. When we stay inside our comfort zone, we don't get a whole lot of new results. And so be prepared to take that step and ask yourself, why not? And so through this process, I'm going to challenge you to make a decision, make a commitment to master one new area of investing, whether it be a paper investment. And maybe it's as simple as participating in your company 401k to get the match. I'm hoping you're going to go even further than that, but let's start with something that you're going to commit to. You may want to start investing in a whole new area of stocks or REITs, which is real estate investment trusts. You may even want to start investing in a business. Now, that's a huge platform. You can start investing in network marketing, all right? That's pretty easy cost entry. You can keep your day job. It's a way for you to start building a little bit of passive income, get that asset started for you. Maybe you want to invest in a franchise, a little bit more higher commitment financially, a little more time intensive. But again, a franchise, you think the owner of a McDonald's is on premises? No. High school students are operating it. And so that person, that individual has, as a franchise owner, has a business where people and systems are working for him or her. And so franchises is a really good way, because you don't have to start and create it all on your own. It's a system you buy into. Or build your own. The most successful businesses do one of two things: solve a problem or serve a need. And that's where you get back to your definiteness of purpose. What is it that's important to you? Do you identify a problem? Then find a solution and build a business around it. Do you identify a need that needs to be served? Then start serving it and build a business around it. And I built my career around financial education. Multiple businesses, but my passion is as strong today as it was when my son came home in credit card debt in December of 1992. I was so angry. I was mad at him. He'd had a really good time. I was mad at him, but I was more mad at myself. And that's when I made that dedication. So it was out of anger. Yours may be out of love. It may be a children's cause, an animal. It might be a medical. It might be sports related. What is it that gets you going? Because that passion and that drive, and knowing that you're solving a problem or serving a need, that's what gets you out of bed in the morning when you want to just hit snooze on the alarm. That's what keeps me going, because I know that I'm supporting and living my legacy. So I challenge you, start thinking about living your legacy. Just start writing it down. Imagine the possibilities, and then ask yourself, why not? I'm asking you, why not? So again, starting and building your own business, maybe that might be a little too big for you right now, so you might want to think at network marketing or franchising. But the greatest reward is going to be in building your own business. Now, that business, you may want to think about building a business around rental real estate. That's something that you can keep your day job and still start investing in rental real estate. And a lot of people make their wealth through real estate. But the vast majority of individuals who are wealthy in the world hold their wealth in real estate. Many of them make it there, but the vast majority of them hold their wealth there. So even though you may choose another avenue to create your wealth plan, keep your eyes open and ears open about potential opportunities for real estate investing. That's something that when I grew up, my dad was invested in rental real estate. We had a lot of tenants, and I swore I would never do it because I have to go with them to scrub out the bathrooms when the tenant left in order to get ready for the next one. I said, I am never going to do this. And then I looked back once I got out of the corporate world and the entrepreneurial bug bit me in my life, and I said, why not? I realized I grew up in that environment, and that's where I saw the greatest opportunities. And so I've done lots of different real estate investing. We're going to talk about different avenues in that arena as well. But I hold my wealth in real estate. And so start thinking about real estate investing as an opportunity for not to just grow your wealth, but to hold your wealth as we continue through this process. Because when it comes to investing in assets, you know, assets can generate income immediately, which is cash flow, right? Or assets can generate increase in value over time. The simplest example is my husband collected comic books when he was a kid. All right, that's not going to generate income unless he sells them, and then you don't have them. So he, over years, those comic books became very valuable. But that didn't help him build wealth. It was just a collectible. And so as you're trying to build your wealth, I challenge you to think about cash flow from those assets more than appreciation. In Rich Dad Poor Dad, we talked a whole chapter about your house is not an asset. Because from an investor's mindset, plain big mindset, assets put money in your pocket, liabilities take money out of your pocket. And so your house costs you money. It's not making you money. So he said, you know, live within your means from a standpoint of your house, but use your revenue to invest in income producing assets. Changing the way you think from income creation to wealth creation. And in doing that, as you start changing your mindset, challenge yourself to start being consistent, because your thought process is so important. So you want to be congruent. You may need to change a few friends. We're going to talk about that in another segment, but the people you hang out with are going to either support your change in mindset or not. So have clarity in what you want. And right now you may not be too clear, but remember to continue researching on which avenue you want to go in, because paper assets, or your retirement plans, businesses, real estate, collectibles, and we're going to also talk about intellectual property. You may want to write a book. You're already an expert in your field. You could write a book and put it on Amazon and start making revenue from that. That's intellectual property. And so understanding clarity, focus on what you want, and do it with certainty that you will succeed, having that confidence. Every step you take is going to make you feel more confident. And I'm right here with you to support you. We're going to go into each one of these areas in the next few modules to support you in getting that clarity, getting that consistency, so you're congruent in what you want. With certainty, you will succeed. And that's why mentorship is so important. Having a guide. I want to be your mentor in creating your life legacy, your financial plan that's going to create wealth for you, your family, and for generational wealth. So hold on to your hat, get ready, download the written materials, because we're ready to get going.